Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome in yet another episode of Little Modular. Today I'm really excited to show you those three modules right here. We will be investigating them together, and there's one particular reason for that. They form a really nice logic package. Logic, mathematics, equations, boring, no fun, I don't get it, take it away. Now we have to fight those stereotypes, because these are the refugees of modular realm. You fear it because you don't understand it, but once you get to know those, they appear to be really cool actually, and really fun. Now getting those modules for me was a huge epiphany, because I was thinking that making some nice rhythmic patches in modular word requires super expensive sequencers and lots of different stuff. And certainly you can do that this way, of course, if you want to. But logic modules offer you just infinite ways and possibilities that will just make any of your patches alive. And it's not really that hard to understand it. So we'll be taking a closer look at three modules. First one right here, logic. Second one, logic, and the third one, SEQS, which stands for sequential switcher. Now, let's take a look at the first of the modules, logic. It's really easy to operate. You have two inputs and one output. That's it. You feed those inputs with different clocks triggers. It could be a square LFO or a clock or whatever. In my case, it's going to be two signals from the Batumi square output, and you get a different output depending on what kind of operation was made upon those two input signals, and you choose what type of operation with this little button right here. You can see different colors mean different operations, and you have 8 of these operations, and these are the most basic logic operations like AND, OR, XOR, and so on and so on. I won't be explaining any of those in detail here, because you can find really good explanations on the internet with some visual feedback, so it's really easy to get it. But it's really easy. For example, the AND operation, which means whenever a trigger appears on both of the inputs at the same time, you get a trigger out at the output. That's it. Now you have 2 of these sections, and they are identical. Even more, they are normalized to each other. So whatever appears on input 1 and 2 in the first section, actually it's input A and B marked here, appears at the section A and B of the second half of the module, which means that you can process the same signal with different kinds of logic operations. And whenever you stick something in here, you can just process a different signal with a different logic operation. Moreover, this module can not only serve as a logic operation unit, but also as a clock divider. If you press and hold the button for 2 seconds, it becomes a clock divider. So whatever you input here, it's going to be divided here. And it's a really good clock divider because it provides you not only with the classical 2, 4, 6, and 8 divisions, but also the odd divisions like 3, 5, 7, 9. So you could get those really nice crazy polyrhythms and some odd patterns with this module also. As you can see right here, I have connected 2 streams of clocks. In my case, these are square waves taken out of Batumi LFO. Different speeds, independent mode. Clean and simple for the sake of clarity. Now I have an output right here, which I will connect to trigger input on mutant bass drum. If I adjust one of the clocks, I get different patterns. Okay. We're operating on one of the algorithms. Now I change speed again, and I get a different pattern again. Now let's change the algorithm. I get a different pattern again. Let's change speeds. Different pattern. Another algorithm. This one a set reset, no LED lit up, meaning the first clock sets high the output and the second one sets it low. That's like the easiest one to understand. Okay, so this is really easy, and most of the times you won't be really thinking in terms of logic operations. You will just fiddle a little bit with different algorithms and different speeds, and you will come up with some different intriguing patterns in no time, especially if you feed in some more exotic clocks, like from Triggerman or from some external sequencer, whatever. As I mentioned before, the lower section is normalized to the upper section, so if I set the lower part to the exact same operation as the upper part, I should get the exact same pattern, right? I have another module here, mutant snare, and if I connect it to the output, it should produce the same pattern, and that's exactly what it does. Okay? Now we can process the lower part with a different operation, so we have a different pattern for the bass drum and the snare drum. And of course we can fiddle with the speed, and you can hear you get some really crazy divisions just by combining simple streams of two clocks. Okay? Of course, nothing stops you from inputting some different clocks and breaking the normalization, and that's what we will do. Here we go. Okay, and now we get totally different patterns, some triplets. So as you can see, it's really straightforward, really easy to use, and can yield some really interesting results in no time. But as I mentioned before, each of these sections on the module can also function as a clock divider. So this is how it works. So you're connecting the clock stream to be divided into input A on the first input of each of the sections. And if you want to go to the clock divider mode, you have to push and hold for 2 seconds. If you want to change the divisions, you just click the button again, and different LEDs again are meaning different divisions, and you get odd divisions like 3, 5, 7, 9, and some standard like 2, 4, 6, 8. So you can set this one to odd, this one to even, and get some really nice polyrhythms. The second input resets the clock divider to the first step each time it receives the trigger, so it's like a bonus functionality. Each time I press it, I have a different clock. Easy. If you want to go back to the logic functionality, you just press the button again for 2 seconds and you're back in the logic mode. Now the second module, A-Logic, works pretty much the same as the first module, with few minor differences. The first one being it operates on CVs rather than triggers and gates. You plug in 2 CV sources in here, in those inputs, and you get 4 simultaneous outputs, each of the outputs representing a different mathematical operation. You get a momentary sum, momentary difference of the signals, and on those outputs you have curve that is following both the maximum and minimum of both signals. And again, I have fed 2 CV sources which come from Batumi, again, 2 different LFO shapes. It's a sine wave and a trapezoid, and this is how it sounds. We are modulating a filter cutoff on ERICA synth voice synthesizer, which you are hearing currently in the background. That's how it sounds on the sum output. You can get some more complex shapes out of ordinary LFOs, and that's how I mainly use it. If a standard LFO sounds too boring, I'll just use this module to animate it and to construct some more complex waves. And of course, experimenting with different speeds as previously, and with different outputs yields different effects. But it's not all. This module also accepts audio, and you can get some really nice kind of effects, something between ring modulation and wave shaping, of course depending on the kind of a source you fit in here. I have some simple waves, for example sine wave from Rubicon. Now the second input is taken out of AFG right there, and I'm just plugging one of the outputs to the mixer. And of course, it all depends on the kind of a signal you fit in here and the frequency. Okay, if I feed some different signal, I get a different results. Ooh, some really nice Hoover right there. Okay. If I change the frequency. Now, last but not least is the CQS. It's a really nifty little device that allows you for some crazy switching between audio or CV signals, and it does it both ways. It could send 4 inputs to one common output and switch between those 4 sources, or it could send one source to 4 different destinations. For this purpose, for the sake of simplicity, I have connected 4 audio sources, which are some random oscillators, to a mixer from the common output. You can hear advancing. Now you advance between those 4 sources with the clock, which you stick right here. There is a LED right here showing which step is active at this time. The thing is that it could be not only 4 steps, but you can change the amount of steps, and you can change the direction. It could go downwards or upwards, and you decide about that with the CV input right here. I have connected an offset attenuator module by Depfer. It's A183-2, one of the essentials modules in my rig also. It works like that. If you apply a positive signal, it's going to advance downwards. If you apply a negative signal, it's going to do the opposite. If you want to change the length of the sequence, any 1.25 volts gives you another step. So 1.25 volts is 1 step, 2.5 volts is 2 steps, 3.75 is 3 steps, and 5 volts gives you 4 steps. Let's see how it works. There is the CV right there. I have decreased the voltage, and you see it goes 3 steps, then it goes 2 steps, and if I decrease the voltage even further, it gives me 1 step. You can see it moves the other way. Okay, 4 steps, 3 steps, and so on and so on. And if I change it to a positive, then it goes the other way, and I can change the amount of the steps. I have prepared a little presentation. You can see almost all of the inputs and outputs on those 3 modules are occupied, and I'm using only 2 different modules: mutant bass drum and organ accumulator. And what I'm doing here is I'm using the first section, the first logic module, to trigger both modules, and I'm feeding this with 2 different LFOs, just like I did previously. For the second module, A logic, I'm taking LFOs from Batumi and Quad LFO by Modcon, which are synchronized with the same clock that provides triggers for both of the modules. And the third module has some random modulations from CV record from some LFOs and some envelopes, and it's driven by the same clock, which is just clock divided, and it's CV'd by a LFO, which is also synchronized, so you get different step length and different number of steps. So it's all kind of semi-random. It's all driven by the same clock, just with different speeds, divisions, and amounts of modulations that are mangled and spitted out by these 3 modules. And that's how it sounds. First, you get only the sounds of the bass drum. It has some modulation on the pitch. And now it's organ accumulator, which also has some modulation. We already have some really nice groove going on right here. Okay, now I can change the LFO speed. I can change logic operations. Okay. You can hear, I mean, it's just silly how many cool patterns and modulations you can get with this 3 modules. It's instant glitch, IDM, whatever. Cool? Well, super cool if you ask me. And again, I switch logic operation and I get a different pattern. So, if you think logic is not fun, ask Spock. He'll tell ya. Heaps of fun! Sorry, but I think I have to go and press record right now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Take care. Ciao. Till next time.